Invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Dear God, we gather today as leaders and citizens of Fergus Falls seeking guidance and wisdom as we work together for the betterment of our community. We ask that you would bless this city council meeting with collaboration and wisdom. As children return to school, we pray for their safety, learning, and growth. Bless our families with patience, love, and support during this busy season. We express gratitude for those who serve and protect us, including our police officers, first responders, and firefighters. May their dedication and bravery be a beacon of hope and security for our community. We also pray for economic growth and prosperity in our city, that new opportunities and development may bring a benefit to all. We thank you for our city staff and work crews that often put in extra hours to keep us going. As the opportunity to serve in this trusted place rests in the hands of voters, may we support the constitutions of the United States, the state of Minnesota, and the charter of City Fergus Falls. We pray that discussions tonight would be respectful, decisions would be just, and the actions for the well-being of all. God, we would ask that you would bless the people of Fergus Falls and the future of our community. And we remember the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, the ultimate example of service and sacrifice. May we be inspired to follow his example, and may we strive to be good and faithful servants to our community, seeking to serve with humility, compassion, and integrity. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. It's 5:30 on this September 3rd, 2024. We'll call this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here.
Hip.
Here.
Here. Here. We have a quorum. First item of business this evening, we will open the floor for the open forum. Anyone wishing to speak to the council regarding any item that's not on the agenda, please feel free to do so at this time. Please state your name.
Dwayne Cookman. I live on Stanton Avenue, and I just want to say, good job. Good work done.
That's a treat.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Thank you.
We can use some more of that.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Thanks, Dwayne. All right. Seeing no one else, we'll move along to the approval of the agenda. I'll call on our city administrator, Andrew Bremseth, for any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Just real quickly, under old business, Councilmember Rachels has asked that the city engineer just make a clarifying statement based on the open forum from the last meeting in response to the comments made by Kirby Anderson with the school board.
Andrew, may I speak? Under the consent agenda, I just have a question on 3 and number 5, if we could just pull that off.
3 and 5, got it.
Thank you. It'll be very quick.
No problem. Anything else? So we would look for a motion approving the agenda as amended with those, with just the new, old business added.
I'll make that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Anthony. Someone like to second that?
I'll
Scott?
second.
Thank you, Scott. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We have one public hearing this evening, and it is regarding a telecommunications franchise agreement with Spectrum Mid-America, doing business locally as Charter Communications. I will call on our city administrator to introduce the topic. We've had this ordinance have a first reading. We're required by law to have a second reading. Anything else you need to add?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, Your Honor, is this is a 10-year extension. The existing agreement is set to expire in 2026, and this would extend that franchise agreement to 2036.
Thank you.
So after the public hearing in the second reading, then it's published and becomes effective 15 days after.
Got it. Thank you. And with that, we will open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to the franchise agreement between the City of Fergus Falls and Spectrum Mid-America, doing business locally as Charter Communications, please step to the lectern. See no one? I will close the public hearing. It's back to the council. We already have a first reading. This has been introduced. It's been a committee, so we'll call for the roll.
Kramer.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Joel.
Yes.
Tommy.
Yes.
Hoover.
Yes.
And that ordinance is approved. There are no bids to award this evening, and there are no items that I'm aware of under petitions and communications. Moving to the consent agenda, there are 5 items if we remove Councilmember Kramer's requested item 3 and 5. If there's anyone else that would like to remove any other items, seeing none, I would look for a resolution approving those remaining 5 items.
I'll make that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Anthony.
So moved.
Scott, thank you. Second, roll call, please.
Kramer.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Joel.
Yes.
Tommy.
Yes.
Hoover.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Item number 3 is a resolution approving the purchase of a sanitary compactor for the landfill. Councilmember Kramer has a question or comment?
Just a question that came up after the last meeting in the discussion for Len. Is there, as far as a compactor, somebody brought up, is there any use of a shredder anyplace? Is that something that's been done? I know that there's always been, it seemed to always be a compactor, but somebody brought up, was there any talk of a shredder, or how does that work?
We actually looked into it a few years ago, and Otter Tail County, as the waste authority,
Okay.
said we could not utilize that.
Okay, perfect, that's just a question.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Shredded?
The shredder would be, that was for the metal, would that be for metal you're talking now?
No, for general trash.
Because they do have a shredder that way then? Okay, I just
Because
seen
I
the.
didn't know anything about it, so.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
It's called my dog, my puppy. No, she's a shredder. For general trash. Would someone like to offer a resolution for approving that purchase? Tom, thank you. Got it. Thank you, Al. Roll call, please.
Kramer.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Joel.
Yes.
Tommy.
Yes.
Hoover.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Second item is a motion directing staff to explore the closure of roadways on South Union Avenue and behind the city shop. Again, Councilmember Kramer, go ahead.
Question, very short once again. Growing up in Fergus, that was always a great shortcut over to, Guttenberg Heights. And Ryan is here from the fire department too. Is that going to hasten any first response to that part of the city if that road is closed? I guess I'm just kind of curious about that. That's my hesitation for that. And really it's, I don't know if you still have those, gravel and crushed asphalt piles back there. So you do have access to it. It's just to, so it's not much to go all the way through. I guess that's where I'm at with it.
Thanks, Al. Would you like to respond?
Yeah, just real quickly, just the motion here is just directing us to explore that, not to actually close them. And part of that exploration, we were going to inquire of both the fire and police departments that exact question.
Perfect.
And I actually I think we asked Ryan earlier today, and I'm not going to speak for him. So Ryan, I don't know if you want to speak or not, but yeah, I'll just let you speak for yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members, Councilmember Kramer. We did have that exact conversation today, and that was one thing we brought up at our department head meeting that Guy and I talked about, of whether it's closed, meaning no traffic goes through there, or kind of a closed, like certain vehicles can get through there. And so that is an exploratory question, because we do use it, you're right. When we get over to the river from the fire station, that is a good cut through. And like Guy had mentioned too, some of the things that we're looking at is it, whose property is it, and how do we have the motoring public go through there, and is it gated, or all things that we high level just threw out there for ideas today to continue a conversation on another day. But definitely appreciate the lens through that, because anytime road closures come up, our awareness heightens a little bit on what that could mean for not only us, but the ambulance along with the police.
Thanks,
We're good.
Chief.
Thank you.
And this, for me, just a question. I'm sure this was covered at the last meeting, but is it just because they're gravel roads and the maintenance of them? Is that the...
Yeah, and Councilmember Rachels was the one who brought this up. His rationale was related to the ongoing maintenance costs and, having to rebuild the road frequently throughout the year, in the case of South Union anyway.
Yeah, I'll just,
Yeah, you live back there, yeah.
so yeah, but when South Union, it just, this last rain just destroys it. And every time it rains, they're out to spend a half a day up there trying to fix, and we don't have the budget to pave it. Half of it's owned, or the one side of the property is owned by Buse Township, and they wouldn't be interested in being assessed. And then the other side is owned by two different parcels, and they're not using it. I mean, they have drivers elsewhere, so. It's just a maintenance nightmare, and it just needs to either be fixed right or go away. Well, we can't get other roads fixed, and that's kind of, I thought we just bring it back. I'd like to see just an explanation of Brian. Brian and I have talked a little bit about it too. That's all it is.
Perfect. So the motion we were looking for is this directing staff this to explore that and continue the conversations and bring something back to the council. So would someone like to offer that?
I'll make that.
Thanks, Anthony.
I'll second it.
Scott, thank you. Other questions? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Under ordinance and resolutions, tonight we have two items for consideration. The first is a resolution approving leveraged funds in the amount of $186,000 from the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, and also authorizing entry into the Lessard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Grant and initiating Public Improvement 7774 for Lake Alice Grit Chambers Project. There's some pictures in our packet, and I know that they're up on the board as well. So I will call on our Community Development Manager, Clara Beck, to talk this item through with us. Good evening, Clara.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Yes, this item is just to reiterate that what we discussed on Wednesday at the Committee of the Whole. We have received a grant from the state of Minnesota to put grit chambers around Lake Alice and also improve some other pieces of the stormwater system. And the question was asked at Committee of the Whole, well, what is it going to look like? So this is just an example of some of the pieces of the project. Lynn, can you scroll down real quick too? So there will be, this is what the idea of a grit chamber, and obviously the design has not actually occurred yet. This is all just example that we can look at today. And then just to state publicly that there will be work that would be done on the road to make this project happen. So there would be construction occurring. I think that was a question that some people in the neighborhood had, is what is this actually going to look like, and is this going to affect us? So that's what we've got here. Yeah.
Yeah, Scott.
I believe that these were going to be put in the roads. You won't even know they're there.
Once it's done, no, you
Yeah,
won't
and
know
then
they're
the only thing
there.
is the cleanouts is like a septic system, I believe. There'll be see the cleanouts on top, but back quite a couple of years, 3 years ago, whatever it was, I seen there was you won't even know they're there once it's done. But it will be a construction deal, yes.
Yep, it would be construction. Then once a year, the city does own a vacuum truck, and the vacuum truck would go to the grit chambers and pull out all of the grit. So that would just be part of its regular maintenance.
So there's 3 storm inlets. How many grit chambers? Is that
We're looking at 2 right now.
2?
On the
That's-
north end,
The main intakes into the
Yep.
into the lake?
basically on the northeast and the northwest corner.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so we would look for a resolution both approving those leveraged funds and then authorizing the entry into the grant.
I got to add a question yet. Now, from what I understand, that's for solids, right? It's to catch solids and not to catch anything like salt water, like salt off the road. That's
Correct.
kind of what I understand.
Yep.
So it really won't do anything for the salt that is leaching off the street into the lake. Is that correct?
Or the fertilizer that somebody puts on their yard.
Right.
But the grass clippings that somebody mows into the stormwater and any of the sand, if you're using a sand salt mix, all of that will be stopped, and any dirt off vehicles will settle.
And this is to clarify Lake Alice. Is that correct? And say that's our goal, or?
It's part of a piece of a larger puzzle that would, yes, improve the water quality, not just for Lake Alice, but for the whole watershed attached to it.
Yep. The watershed for Lake Alice comes all the way from the RTC.
Mm-hmm.
And so it runs down Union and quite a number of those streets on the north corner, and all goes into Lake Alice. It's not a perfect system. It's not a water purifying system.
So would someone like to offer the resolution?
I'll offer that.
Thank you, Scott. And this is for both the entering into that grant application initiation of public improvement 774 and also the leveraging of the fund, correct? So there's the resolution. Someone like to second that?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Anthony. Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 That resolution is approved. Next item is a resolution that is brought forth from the Tax Levy Committee recommending authorizing the Bigwood Event Center to partner with Leighton Media to execute a marketing plan in the fourth quarter of 2024 and the first quarter of 2025. I'll call on City Administrator Andrew Bremseth, but also Council Member Laura and Scott from the Tax Levy Committee that brought this forward. Go ahead, start us out.
Yeah,
Andrew.
thank you, Your Honor.
Anthony.
Members, I'll kick us off and then maybe look to my friends from the Tax Levy Committee if they want to add anything. But this is a follow-up to the discussion that, the presentation that we had at the Committee of the Whole last Wednesday. And from there, we mentioned kind of the next step was going to be to have the Tax Levy Committee discuss all that information and come back to you with a recommendation, which is what we're doing this evening. And what that discussion led to was looking at a 6-month marketing plan. Originally, the presentation was focused on 2025 work, but in our discussion at the Tax Levy Committee and knowing how bookings at an event center work, where the work and the bookings you're doing today are really for the following year, we figured it was imperative if we're going to try to see the value of this marketing strategy sooner than potentially 2026, we need to get things moving now. So what we're recommending is that kind of a two-phased approach, which we talked about last Wednesday. The first phase being an exchange of event space with Leighton Media for the equivalent value in media exposure, which could start immediately, and that does not have any cash outlay from the city. It's simply a barter agreement where they use the space to host some of their events. In return, we get that Leighton Media exposure with various campaigns. Phase 2 was more of that search engine optimization, web marketing, that very strategic stuff on sites that are not Leighton owned, which is where there is a cost. And like we mentioned on Wednesday, the cost is $1,250 a month. So looking over a 6-month period, that totals $7,500. Again, 3 months in quarter 4 of this year, 3 months in Q1 of 2025. All of that funding would be coming from liquor store proceeds. And then what we talked about at the Tax Levy Committee was at that point in time, we'd have enough data to come back to the City Council to say this is or isn't working. And if there were going to be any further work or engagements, we would have to get the council's blessing at that time. We do have listed here that we're going to be doing check-ins with Leighton Media every 6 to 8 weeks. So there are some thresholds or benchmarks to have and understand where we're at to ensure that even the work that starts in Q4 of this year is providing some results. So I'll stop there and see if Laura or Scott. Laura's kind of the guru on this one, so I'll maybe just let her go from there.
She uses lots of abbreviations that I didn't understand. Good grief.
Floor is yours, Madam Guru.
Well, I guess I had some questions to follow up from the meeting that we had last week. We had talked about just who's going to be able to handle the phone calls kind of coming in, because I know that Brooke is going on maternity leave. So just kind of working through some of those inside things have you guys talked about that and worked through that, or is that still in the works?
Probably still in the works a bit, but certainly Brandon Curry from the liquor store, he oversees the operations. And then we do have a permanent part-time person hired for the Bigwood, also works half-time at the liquor store, so kind of goes in between. So that person will be really stepping up in Brooke's absence. And then, of course, we'd be looking to our communications manager as well to really be helping us with any of the communications. So that's my thoughts, but we haven't, nailed that plan down.
Yeah, I think that, looking at a 6-month duration on this is going to give us the data that we need, in my opinion, to really decide if this is the route or the best way to market the Big Wood, because we've got to market it. We need to start filling it.
Thanks, Laura. We should get a resolution on the floor. Someone like to offer the resolution?
I'll offer it.
Scott?
I'll second that.
Second, thank you, Laura. Now, further discussion?
Discussion time?
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay,
Al.
I'm up for that. As far as the first part of that, which there's shared space for Leighton's expertise on advertising and marketing, I'm completely fine with. It's the second part that I have an issue with. As we were told the other day, it goes out 20 miles, which, 20 miles around Fergus, I think everybody pretty much knows what the Big Wood Center is. If we're going to do that, it should be at least hitting Fargo, Moorhead, Alec, Detroit Lakes, those sorts of communities. I guess at $12.50 a month, to me, that's money. That's going out the window. I know that something has to be done with the Big Wood Center. It has to be marketed. We do have a communications director. We also, I believe, I don't know if it's still called the Convention and Visitors Bureau, that gets 3% off of lodgings in town. I would think they could take part of this expense if there's going to be an expense, because there's budgets there that they have. And I think instead of farming it out to somebody else, we need to take care of it in-house. And we, things can be sent out to these larger communities. The ones that are close, I think they know where it's at. I think they know how to get in touch with somebody here. Also, too, that's part of that search engine. I'm not for that, just due to the cost. And I think there's other places and other resources that we already have that doesn't have to come out of a $12.50 a month out of the budget, or to create that $12.50 a month to put into the budget. I really think we need to look at that 3% on lodgings and see where some of that marketing money could go, because I do know that there is some money that is for that. Why aren't we using that? We got to figure out, hey, is this really worth a return on our investment? Is it going to be there? Of course, there's going to be studies and we're going to look at the numbers. But I think I'm very skeptical of that. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Anyone else?
I think Al raises a good point. I wonder if that isn't something that we should explore as a dialogue with Convention and Visitors Bureau, because that and even if it was a shared portion, that we do some and they do some, to expand it, or can we just do the search engines ourselves internally? Do we need Leighton Broadcasting?
The phase 2 elements all have a pay to play. It's almost like we're buying real estate on sites and space we don't own. So there is a fixed cost with it,
Yeah.
regardless of who manages it, whether
Yeah.
we're me directing it or somebody externally. But yeah, there would be a cost associated with that phase 2.
But if we did that ourselves, what markup does Leighton put on it? If it's $1,000 to access
I don't know
a site,
I
or
don't know if they're putting a fee on their time, but that's
Yeah.
a good question.
Your Honor.
Yeah,
I
Scott.
think Laura's pretty much, she's done this before. She knows exactly what's going on, and she was a great help. We've already had this discussion in our tax levy committee, how it worked, and
Yeah, when you're talking about SEM or SEO and having all those keywords tying back into your website, and you're trying to be that first one that pops up when somebody types in weddings in Fergus Falls. So you have to own so many different spaces that it can get a bit overwhelming. Truly. So I tried to do it myself, and I'm like, nope, can't, because every day it changes. To be very honest with you, it's always a changing game, and you have to stay in front of it, and you have to stay on top of it in order to keep ranking.
Thanks, Laura.
and just, we've been trying to figure out what to do with this place, and it's on an uphill trend. It's going in the right direction right now, and so to cut it off would be just not right. And how we do that, the trade is a good thing, and I don't think $12.50 a month is it'd be a very cheap education for us to see what's really going on. Because if it's nothing out there, if we don't get nothing back on it, then we know. But instead of sitting here thinking about, oh, what could be or you know, what couldn't be. So I think we've talked about this a lot, and I think it's a good place to be to help that place out, because really right now it needs to be marketed and something that we can't do. We're not a marketing company.
Thanks, Scott. And there's a resolution on the floor to take the recommendation of the Tax Levy Committee authorizing this partnership with Layton Media. Any further questions before we call for the roll?
The only thing I'd say, Your Honor, is there's nothing that's stopping us from asking the Visit Fergus Falls to participate or partner in this effort, you know, even after we approve this, or if it's approved. We'll certainly reach out and have that conversation. I think it's a valid question. You know, the event center itself doesn't necessarily lead to hotel stays, but it can, right? So it's convincing them that investment, which their goal is heads and beds, is that investment would lead to that. So I think it's a very fair question and a fair conversation. It just hasn't happened.
I mean, chances are if it's a wedding, they're going to have some hotel rooms.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so.
I think that's a good point. I also think it's easier to basically agree to something after it's already been done, or harder to go back on something after it's been decided too. You know, people are going to be more not willing to do anything after it's been approved. I think that if we're going to talk to other entities that are going to share some costs on this, I think that should be done before this is voted on, because it's already voted on.
Thanks, John. All right, we'll see where it lands. Roll call, please.
Kramer.
No.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
No.
Joe.
Yes.
Kwame.
Yes.
Ruther.
Yes.
And that resolution fails. So I guess we're back to the drawing board, and we'll see if Tax Levy Committee wants to.
I would
pick back up
just,
and-
you know, in between Al and Anthony, you seem to have some pretty good answers, so we would like to have some of those questions brought to us, so we can ask the right people, because we worked on pretty much a whole hour on this thing, trying to figure out what was the best way to do this. But if there's another way, I'm more than happy to listen to it, and let's figure this out. So I'll kind of leave that with you guys. If you want to get something back to us and tell us where it's going to come from, I'm more than happy to listen.
I think if we want to split it up and do phase 1 and then phase 2.
I think that's a great idea.
So I would make a motion that we adopt phase 1 of the marketing plan or resolution.
Okay. Thanks, Anthony.
Second that.
Al? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Al? Do you have a question, Mr. Layton?
Thank you, Mark Layton. Obviously, this has been a difficult situation at best. What is the carrying cost in 2024 of the Bigwood Event Center? What is it costing the taxpayer? Mr. Rachel says it's getting better. What's getting better? Did it cost 100 and a quarter last year? Is it going to cost 115 this year?
We're estimating it's probably about 124,000, I believe, in 2024 is what we're estimating.
Yep. So those carrying costs are difficult. And unfortunately, you can say it was mismanagement, you could say it was COVID, you could say it's the arena, it could be whatever. This thing's not going to turn around. I was talking to an engineer today. Cut your losses and move on. Quit spending $125,000 a year on this thing. Thank you.
So just to go back on that, we've talked about this, and it's $68,000 a year to mothball it and not use it. So we're not that far apart right now. If we just park it, shut it off, it's $68,000 a year to leave it sit there. We figured that out already. That's why we're going ahead with this, trying to figure out, get this to go on the uphill swing and make it work. I think that's available.
Thanks, Scott. All right, so we have a resolution on the floor to enter an agreement with Phase 1.
Correct.
That's been seconded. I didn't catch the second, but you got
Al
it.
did it.
Al.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Kramer.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Bonnie.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Tonight, we have claims in the amount of $1,322,590.99. I would look for a resolution to pay those bills.
I'll offer that.
Thank you, Scott. Someone like the second?
I'll second.
Thank
He's
you,
looking
Tom.
your way.
Scott, no.
I got a
No,
couple of
We got a
comments
second. Scott has a couple questions, or a couple things he'd like to point out, I think. Go ahead, Scott, floor is yours.
I spoke with Bill Sommer last Friday about a few things that I noticed in the list of expenses. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. On page 46 in our packet was an expense of over $22,000 to replace 14 doors at the CBHH. And as people would see that and wonder about it, I understand that all of the expenses for the operation of the CBHH are reimbursed by the state.
Correct.
Correct, Bill? We've had other maintenance things there from time to time, and just wanted to make sure people understood that. On page 50 of the record of the packet, there's also an expense for $15,666 for waste carts under refuse disposal. And this would be the blue garbage carts that we have. And from time to time, they disappear or get damaged, or we have new addresses that need them. And it works out to about $66 per cart. And now we'll have some on hand for those needs as they come up. And I just thought that was an interesting bit of trivia, if nothing else. I guess you could call it that. Page 54, there was one other item to bring out. This was only a $200 and $299.50 expense. But the point that caught my attention was that it was a refund or a credit for a double billing for a part from the auto parts store. So my question to Bill was how something like that gets found, and then what the process is. And so he described to me what their internal auditing process is. And in this case, Vicki in the finance department would have been the one who found this, and it would have been actually just in the routine of her business, because this kind of thing isn't terribly common, but as it might happen from time to time, the process is in place, and our staff does a good job of staying on top of things so that even something as relatively small as a $300 cost is discovered before we see that. So thanks to Vicki, thanks to Bill, and with that, I'll shut up. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Any other questions on the bills for Bill? Roll call, please.
Kramer.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Bonnie.
Yes.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. There is no there is old business. There's no unfinished business, but there's old business. Scott, you're asking for a chance to comment on some
Yeah,
issues that were brought forward at the
There was-
last city council meeting?
when Kirby was up talking about it, there was a lot talk about lack of communication between the city and the school, and I know that wasn't true, and so I just wanted to make sure that we can explain our side of the story and what was going on, and so, Brian.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, members. Yes, I'm going to speak to what my understanding of what Mr. Kirby provided at the previous council meeting for the open house and everything in regards to public improvement 5960. So, based on my understanding, the contractor and their discussion that the city did shut them down from paving Summit. And yes, on July 26th, we did suspend the contractor's paving operations on Summit Avenue. During the asphalt pavement, when the material was being delivered to the site, the aggregate road base began to tire rut excessively, indicating a very unstable road base. This type of instability is generally a result of high moisture content that appeared to be localized above the utility trenches for the utility replacements. The contractor did acknowledge that they are at risk and responsible for patching all defective work. Visual observations at the time, what we seen, the amount of defective work was too excessive, and we made a judgment call that patching, it could be a lot more than just patching come springtime. So we did have Brown Intertech come visit the site the previous day to confirm, and do their own visual observations, and they reaffirmed our decision to suspend the paving. Just a little account, our records indicate this spring, summer, we've incurred rain of all events in excess of 31 days. It seemed even when there was a window of some drying time, because the soil does have to dry, it takes a few more days again, it did not happen. The remaining streets on Linden and Laurel were monitored in the interim after the suspension of Summit. They have been since paved, they were since, they were monitored. They seem to be acceptable. We did do testing on those remaining streets, and they were paved last week prior to the school start. Summit was also temporarily patched. If anybody wants to go down Summit, I'm not gonna say, but there are some failures on that road that are temporary patched and will be permanently patched next spring, prior to installing the final asphalt lifting course that is typical with our projects. Like I said, that is the sequence of events based on my understanding of it, and we appreciate the residents' patience during this process. It has been, but there's a lot of, the rain has definitely impacted a lot of projects this year. So I'll about any questions you might have, sir.
Thank you. That was it.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for that update.
Have we? Can we mail something out to the residents that are affected on those streets just to give them an update? Yeah, as opposed to it's fine putting it on a Facebook, but that's not everybody looks at Facebook. But I mean, at least I think to those affected residents on those streets, because as you say, there's still quite a lot of work to do in terms of the verge piece of it, and sort of let them know what their sort of like timeline is, and let them know that next spring there's going to probably be some digging up of the failed patches.
Yeah, if I may answer that. Yeah, we do that typical on all construction projects.
Yeah.
Other than the advertisement goes through Facebook and through public service announcements and everything. We do, even through our mill and overlays, hand deliver
Yeah, that would be at least
general information to the directly impacted ones.
The other thing I would add about those personal notes, they go out at the beginning of the project before we even start. It has the cell phone numbers on it for our project leads and a QR code that links back to the street section on our website. And every Friday, Brian's staff gives me an update and I update that as well as the mass media. So those residents who've paid attention or put that newsletter on their refrigerator can scan that QR code today or Wednesday or Friday, and they'll always get that update. I even update it on the weekend. Whenever I get an update, I put it on the website immediately.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, obviously this project should have been finished a while ago, so I'm sure, I don't know how many of them still got that QR code. So it would just be nice, because Laurel particularly has been bad, because a lot of the gravel base washed out. So as you say, that caused them even more work, remedial work.
At the contractor's expense,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yes, but
Yeah.
we all wanted it paved.
Yeah, no, I know. It wasn't city engineering issue. It was, as you say, a contractor failing to deliver quality work. But residents, when they talk to you, they don't care. They care about their road. So they do care about the infrastructure and what we're paying for, and they want it to be good.
I'd just like to say thank you, Brian, for doing what you do. It's a difficult situation, especially when the weather does not cooperate. As we found out, what was it, last week when we had that, everything was flooding. And I don't remember ever seeing that, but we've had quite a year for rain. And when roads are wide open like that, it's just like a funnel that takes it right there, and it's hard to get that moisture out, and putting behind on schedules, that's very difficult. And, people lose their patience. And thank you. Every time I've asked you a question, you've always been straightforward and answered it, and I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Al. Thank you, Brian. Any other questions for our city engineer? Yeah, we echo those comments. Thanks, Al. Thank you, Brian.
I just wanted to say, I think Stanton got the same stuff, but I don't know what they did. It was the base, but they did an awesome job.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Actually, maybe on the QR codes, I mean, if we're going to do a project like this, could we put a stake in the ground and a QR code on it and a sign that would sort of say updated information on this. So at least then we could sort of like say there's a post here with that QR code on it.
Yeah.
Just so that then, as you say, anybody walking by can kind of do that.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, good. Because it's a good idea that, as you say, updating it like you're doing it.
Right.
But not everybody knows to do that.
All right.
Thanks,
Anthony.
Gene.
Thanks, Gene. Thanks, Brian. There is no other old or unfinished business. There is no new business. Under miscellaneous announcements, this meeting will be adjourned. To follow will be the Port Authority meeting immediately following. The preliminary 2025 budget presentation will take place on September 11th at 7 a.m. during the Committee of the Whole, which is the next scheduled meeting of this council. And then I wanted to make note that September is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. And I just wanted to highlight one of the local businesses here that is putting on an event to highlight the services that are available to members of our community who are going through difficulties around suicide prevention, mental illness. Dandelion in Burdock downtown. There's Dandelion Days this Saturday, September 7th from noon to 8. It's going to have music, food, fellowship, family-friendly activities, art, just a lot of good community-based material. And again, I think it's just to highlight the resources that are available there's a lot of people in our community that are struggling with mental illness and lots of suicide. So this is a serious issue. September is, as we mentioned, suicide awareness. So I thank Dandelion, Burdock, Paul and Amy for putting that event on. It's downtown on the last block of Lincoln, noon to 8 on Saturday. And yeah, thank you for doing that. Anything else to come before the council? We're adjourned.